Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to another Black and Intellectual video. I wanted to talk today about the comments by GOP Mississippi Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith. Okay, now Cindy Hyde-Smith was appointed to this position by Republican Governor Phil Bryant of Mississippi when the previous person who was holding that seat, Thad Cochran, stepped down. He resigned because of health issues. So Cindy Hyde-Smith was appointed, and now she's running to actually officially, democratically be elected to that seat to further represent Mississippi within the U.S. Senate. Now, she's running in a four-way runoff election that is going to occur November the 27th. And one of the four people that she's running against is a black Democrat by the name of Mike Espy. Now, Mike Espy, he seems like he's of the more establishment ilk. I don't think he's particularly all that progressive, or if he is, it's not really all that apparent. That's not really the point, though, because recently Cindy Hyde-Smith made an appearance in Mississippi with a cattle rancher named Colin Hutchinson, and this was in Tupelo, Mississippi. And she was speaking in front of a crowd of onlookers, all of them white, and it wasn't that big of a crowd. It looked honestly like it was maybe at most 20 people, unless whoever was filming the viral video of her statements, unless they were just standing in the front of a much larger crowd. But that's not really important, because in front of a crowd of people, Cindy Hyde-Smith said if this particular cattle rancher invited her to a public hanging, she'd be on the front row. And she said it just like that. I'm not going to play the video because honestly, the audio is a little, it's kind of hard to hear. I mean, you can hear her say it clearly, but it's not very audible. And there's a lot of wind in the background and a lot of like commotion in the background. So you can definitely look it up on your own and you can hear her say it. But what's interesting to me about this story is not honestly so much the comments or getting, I'm upset about the comments, but it's not even so much about that. It's the fact that it's the fact that you have white Republicans, okay, who know that they can make these comments publicly, okay, and get the support and perhaps even get turnout from Republican voters by using, and this isn't even a dog whistle, by using blatant, open racism. Okay, and you even saw it in the elections most recently, the midterm elections, where you had several people, Duncan Hunter, Steve King, potentially Ron DeSantis. They're still doing a recount right now in Florida. Potentially Brian Kemp. Stacey Abrams is trying to really fight, and her supporters are fighting hard to get all the votes counted so they can get him under 50%, so that can go off to a runoff election. You're seeing Republicans, and not even just them, but even Donald Trump, who are just openly embracing white supremacy and its blatant forms. And this is long term, it's going to be very destructive. I don't think individually, I don't expect someone like Cindy Hyde-Smith to do any more damage than your typical Mississippi Republican. It seems pretty standard within Mississippi for Republicans running for statewide offices and in these federal offices to not even debate their opponents. So there's this whole elitist, deep South, good old boy network and mentality where I don't think it's an accident that Cindy Hyde-Smith, knowing that she's running against a black Democrat, is going to be making statements about public hangings and lynchings in a state like Mississippi, which is not only just Mississippi but other states as well. is definitely known for its dark history involving public lynchings. So I'm going to read this article from the Root, and it's going to be the first of several articles that I'm going to read about this particular story. So it says, apparently all of us offended by Mississippi Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith's joke, quote unquote, about being on the front row of a public hanging are overreacting. Yep, that's the spin that Hyde-Smith and her people are putting on the Senate hopeful's reprehensible remarks. Don't forget that Hyde-Smith is running for Senate in the lynching capital of America. Mississippi had the highest number of lynchings in the nation between 1882 and 1968, according to the NAACP. Oh, and also don't forget that Hyde-Smith is headed for a runoff on November 27th for said Senate seat against former Democratic Representative Mike Espy, a black man in a state known for racially motivated lynchings. I said that earlier. But we're being sensitive, and this is what the author is saying, but we're being sensitive because the, quote, joke Hyde Smith made is being overblown and taken out of context. In a video that has now been shared across all social platforms, Hyde-Smith appears to be speaking during a campaign event about support from a Mississippi rancher. And then, the author has the quote here: if he invited me to a public hanging, I'd be on the front row. And there's even like this laugh from the crowd. No one is shocked by this at all. And I don't, honestly, in Mississippi, I wouldn't expect that. And they have you can see on the video, he has this guy folding his arms with these shades on. He has this little grin on his face. As he looks like his wife standing next to him. She has a grin on her face. Like they're getting a little kick out of this. And continuing with the article, it says, because the rest of Mississippi is equally fucked up, and he even add that in the article, which is fine, and steeped in years of racist ideology, the line drew laughter and applause from the crowd. Although the clip wasn't long, it's been shared some 2 million times, CNN reports. Hyde-Smith issued a statement on Sunday saying, quote, in a comment on November 2nd, okay, I thought it was on November the 1st, I referred to accepting an invitation to a speaking engagement. In referencing the one who invited me, I used an exaggerated expression of regard, and any attempt to turn this into a negative connotation is ridiculous. End quote. And I'm sure it is. That's their spin on it. Of course, she's not apologizing for it. These right-wingers, they've gone past the point of apologizing for their racism. They're wearing it openly on their sleeves, and their supporters are continuing to support them for this. The funny part is, I absolutely believe Hyde-Smith when she says that she used an exaggerated expression, quote unquote, because to her that's all it is, and therein lies the comfort of whiteness. For Hyde-Smith, lynchings are just an expression. Lynchings are carved into her DNA. She's never seen images of people who look like her uncle hanging from a tree just because they were the color of the oppressor. It's also mighty white of her to make the offensive comment and then tell those offended how they should feel. Espy said on CNN's New Day Monday morning that the comments were, quote, reprehensible and, quote, disappointing and reflected poorly on the state. And he says some other things here, and at the end he says, fuck Cindy Hyde-Smith, her ancestors, and everything she stands for. I hope she doesn't take that as an insult. It's just an exaggerated statement, end quote. That's funny. So that's the article from the Root that sums up the gist of this whole incident, and I think it's also very interesting, since this went viral and became a controversy. There's an article from Essence that talks about how Mississippi governor, the one who appointed her, defends the Senate pick's statement that she joked about attending a public hanging. So the governor of Mississippi, Phil Bryant, okay, is doubling down, and he honestly made the situation even worse. when he went to the media and said the media should be more focused on, quote, the genocide of over 20 million African American via abortions. So somehow, because of abortions, and I don't even know that these statistics are accurate, a lot of these white supremacists use fake statistics anyway from www.fakeraciststats.com or in places like that. You know what I'm saying? So just ignoring the validity or lack thereof of the actual statement being made by the governor, even if we were to say that those numbers are real, he's using that as a justification for the extra legal and extrajudicial murder of black people, which is a complete false equivalency. It's a complete distraction. It's a red herring. Okay, so it's not something that obviously it's not something that should be taken seriously. But again, we see here from Republicans that they are embracing their white supremacy because they see with Donald Trump, they see with these other people running that, hey, being a racist doesn't really hurt us anymore, apparently. Our supporters are so enfrenzied and they are so, and I'm not even sure if that's a word, but our supporters are so whipped up now and believing just about anything that we say as long as they maintain power. We don't have to walk on eggshells anymore regarding race and regarding racism. We can just be as openly and blatantly racist as we want to be. So the Mississippi governor threw out this red herring out of nowhere. And the Essence article says the governor of Mississippi is defending the state's Republican senator who came under fire for claiming that she'd willingly be in the front row of a, quote, public hanging if invited. Republican Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith caused an uproar recently when she thanked a supporter by saying, if he invited me to a public hanging, I'd be on the front row. That's exactly how she said it. That's exactly how she said it. Drawl and everything. She is currently in a runoff race against her African-American opponent, etc., etc. So we already know that. But despite the backlash from her comment, Hyde-Smith refused to touch the subject at a recent press conference with Governor Phil Bryant. But the governor who appointed Hyde-Smith to the Senate earlier this year had no problem defending her by using the topic of abortions as a way to sidestep the controversy. And then this is what this fool said. He said, I know this woman and I know her heart. Okay, that means absolutely nothing. And then I'm going to stop for a second. In this Essence article, I'm going to link this, put the link to this article beneath the video in the description box. You have to see this tweet from Twitter that is embedded within the article. Okay, it's from someone named Hussein Simmons. And it says the reporter asked, why did you make reference to lynchings when running against an African-American candidate? And then here's what this fool said.
Put out a statement yesterday, and we stand by that statement.
Could you expand on it then, why you said it, what you meant by it, and why people in the state should not see it as offensive?
We put out the statement yesterday, and it's available, and we stand by that statement.
Senator, are you familiar with Mississippi's history of lynchings?
I put out a statement yesterday, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Governor you mentioned that it shouldn't be viewed with a negative connotation. Could you at least explain
I put out a
how
statement
it could be
yesterday,
positive?
and we stand by the statement, and that's all I'm going to say about it.
Is that phrasing in your everyday lingo, in your vocabulary? Do you use that phrase?
I put out a statement yesterday.
Governor, you appointed her as a United States Senator. You have a huge black population that are looking for answers on why she used that kind of language. And you have worked to try to make it known that Mississippi no longer has that past. When you're hearing her say, I put out a statement yesterday, and that's all
I think she is, she's certainly addressing the fact that she has put out a statement. I can tell you all of us in public life have said things on occasion that we could have phrased better. When you make as many speeches as we do in public life, that does occur. But I know this woman and I know her heart. I knew it when I appointed her, I know it now. She meant no offense by that statement. There was nothing in her heart of ill will. Now, in a political campaign, people can make anything you say what they want it to say. They can spin it. They can go on social media and accuse you of all sorts of things.
Governor,
She feels certain that, I believe, I won't speak for her, but that her statement spoke to it. Absolutely, we have been sensitive to race relations in this state. I brought the President of the United States here to open the Civil Rights Museum. And African-American leadership that would fail to even come to the event because the President of the United States was there. Today I talked about the genocide of over 20 million African-American children. You see, in my heart, I am confused about where the outrage is at about 20 million African-American children that have been aborted. No one wants to say anything about that. No one wants to talk about that.
So you see how this man tried to use abortions, and he tried to use the African American Museum all as red herrings to deflect away from the fact that the woman that he selected and to represent the state of Mississippi in the United States Senate casually makes, positive comments about lynchings. And they are both doing this and saying this, and if you can see this if you watch the video, standing in front of the Mississippi state flag, which still carries the symbol of the Confederate flag within it. Mississippi is the only state in the country since Georgia changed its state flag. I want to say back in 2003. Mississippi is now the only state left in the country to actually include the Confederate battle flag within its state flag. Okay, so Mississippi has a history here. Okay, Mississippi has a very treacherous history here, and every time the reporters asked Cindy Hyde-Smith to make a comment about it, you heard it, she would deflect and say, I made a statement about it and that's all I'm gonna, basically, she's not trying to make her situation worse, because she obviously can very easily put her foot back into her mouth, because she seems like she's someone who's very comfortable, being around racists and saying racist things, and just living within that world. But at the same time, she's not going to turn off her racist base either. Because this is also about appealing to them. So when you're making comments about public lynchings and public hangings in a state like Mississippi with that history, your supporters know what you're saying and they know what you're getting at. So, the governor of Mississippi is in on it. He's part of this white supremacist good old boy network. And anybody appointed by him, is gonna also be just as racist as he is. And I've even heard rumors that the governor of Mississippi is somehow related to the woman who lied about Emmett Till. I haven't actually looked that up. I haven't actually had, verified that. I haven't had the time to verify that. But that's out there. That's something I've seen people, tweet and, on Twitter, on my timeline and things like that. So there's that, factor as well. So you have the governor doubling down. You have Cindy Hyde-Smith doubling down. And then to make matters worse, of all groups of people, Google, the tech company, Google, after the lynching comments were made, they donated $5,000 to Cindy Hyde-Smith. Okay. And this is from an article that I'm not really going to read. It's from popular.info. I don't know much about the website. I've never actually gone to the website before. But if this is definitely true, again, and honestly, it's not even that if it's true. We know for a fact that a lot of tech companies, and companies in general, a lot of corporate America groups and companies, routinely give money to these right-wing politicians. That's how you know, like, a lot of these tech companies, that's why a lot of them, they don't say anything about police brutality. They don't say anything about, they don't make any type of noise about a lot of the injustices that go on. Or they don't, you see them, they're not saying anything about voter suppression. A lot of these tech companies are putting money directly into the hands of politicians to maintain the social hierarchy. Okay, there's a lot of money being put into maintaining the racial status quo, and voter suppression is an aspect of that. Okay, and making sure that politicians are able to echo their racism and publicly endorse this strategy is also an aspect of that as well. So, I'm not going to say too much more about it. I think that's probably enough time spent on a story like this. I hope she loses, but to be perfectly honest with you, you never know. It's Mississippi. He's a black Democrat, even if he's an establishment that black Democrat. And we've seen how white Republican voters have responded to this in the midterm elections and even in 2016 already. They're perfectly fine with this. They have no issue with this type of rhetoric and what it means to have a bunch of politicians in power who think like this, and the laws that they support and the laws that they pass that do damage to groups of people. And honestly, the laws that even like Cindy Hyde-Smith, she's not going to protect your health care. She's not going to push for white Republicans who need universal health care and single payer. She's not going to get behind those initiatives. So, like, a lot of these politicians are no good even for the people that they supposedly represent, which is, in this case, a lot of racist Southerners in Mississippi. Some of these deep South states are ran terribly, and they're ran terribly because a lot of the white conservatives who stay in these states support politicians that go out of their way to make sure certain things don't happen, because they're more obsessed with making sure black people and Muslims and brown people don't have anything. That's primarily what drives them. Okay, which is why the notion of a black president or a black leader in general in some sort of high position is kryptonite to a lot of these folks. And they'll do things that make absolutely no sense politically, but if it means making sure a black person doesn't become governor, or making sure a black person doesn't become a senator, if we have to sort of cut our own hands off to make sure make sure our group is in power a little while longer, that's what a lot of these folks actually care about, and it's not something that I think a lot of people think about. And I don't think it's something that a lot of people factor into the equation a lot of times when it comes to like support for racism from a lot of people within this country. So we'll see where this goes for sure. And we're going to have to keep our eyes on this race. And that's all I really wanted to say about it. Click the like button, click the subscribe button. If you like this video, click the bell beneath the video to be alerted whenever I post my next video. Thanks.